Hello, welcome and namaste from New Delhi. You're watching DD India Live. I'm Gautam Roy. Coming up in the next 30 minutes. Russia rejects Trump's paper tiger tag, calling itself a real bear. The Kremlin says it will press on with its Ukraine offensive in face of the US president's assertion that Kyiv could recapture its territory lost to Moscow. India blasts Pakistan at UN Human Rights Council meet in New York, saying it bombs its own people and abuses international forums by making provocative statements against New Delhi. And the year's biggest storm in the region, Typhoon Ragasa, makes landfall in southern China after wreaking havoc and claiming 17 lives in Taiwan and drenching Hong Kong. In a major shift from his previous dismissals of Kyiv's aims in over 3.5-year-old conflict, US President Donald Trump has said that Ukraine could retake all of its territory lost to Russia. In a post on his Truth Social platform, Donald Trump said he believes Ukraine, with the support of the European Union and NATO, can win back all the territory Russia has taken. Trump further said that the US will continue to supply weapons to NATO for NATO to do what they want with them. Dismissing Russia as a paper tiger in economic peril, Trump said, and I quote, "Putin and Russia are in big economic trouble," end quote. And this is the time for Ukraine to act.
The biggest progress is that the Russian economy is terrible right now. It's, as you know, it's crashing. And that, frankly, Ukraine is doing a very good job of stopping this very large army. It's pretty amazing. You know, this is a war that should have ended in 3 days, 4 days. People said it was going to be very quick, and you got to hand it to the Ukrainian soldiers.
Trump's comments came after holding talks with the Ukrainian counterpart Volodymyr Zelensky on the sidelines of the UNGA in New York. Speaking to the media with Zelensky, the US president called NATO nations to shoot down Russian planes violating their airspace.
Mr. President, do you think that NATO countries should shoot down Russian aircraft if they enter their airspace?
Yes, I do.
And Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, on his part, hailed this big shift in Donald Trump's position after he said Kyiv could win back every inch of territory captured by Russia's army. Speaking to the media after meeting Trump, Zelensky said the US president had the influence and power to be a game changer for Ukraine.
Trump is a game changer by himself if he will be sure in Ukraine, and I think that he is more close now to this situation, and that's why and between us only Trump can. For today, we know some not too much players in the world who can be game changers, but he's the most closer to this.
French President Emmanuel Macron has also welcomed comments by US President Trump, appearing to shift his rhetoric about the war in Ukraine. Addressing the 80th session of the UNGA in New York, Macron said the world needs a functioning United Nations.
Il revient désormais à la Russie de prouver qu'elle peut choisir la...
One could heap many criticisms on our assembly, including some that are not entirely fair. This assembly is us. It is ineffective. It is because some are blocking it, and often the most powerful. If it does not move fast enough, it is because we are not determined enough to push it forward. The United Nations is all of us. One thing is certain. We do not have the right to cynicism. We do not have the right to fatigue. We do not have the right to a defeatist mindset.
Territoire ukrainien, malgré tant et tant de pertes, tant et tant de victimes.
But the Kremlin on Wednesday said it had no choice but to continue its military offensive against Ukraine as Moscow rejected US President Donald Trump's claim that Russia is a paper tiger. Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov even clarified that Trump's paper tiger comment was aimed at Russia's economy. He added that Russia is symbolized by a bear and remains, in his words, a real bear. Commenting on US President Donald Trump's attempts to reset ties, Peskov said the Russia-US rapprochement has yielded close to zero results, despite US-led attempts in recent months to rebuild relations between the two powers. In another series of events, a Spanish military jet with Defense Minister Margarita Robles on board experienced a GPS disturbance early on Wednesday as it flew near Russia's Kaliningrad exclave on its way to Lithuania. The plane was carrying relatives of Spanish airmen who form part of the NATO air defense mission on its eastern flank. The mission was launched earlier this month after Poland shot down drones that violated its airspace. A European Union spokesperson said Bulgarian authorities suspected the incident was due to interference by Russia. Earlier, NATO issued a warning to Russia after a series of airspace violations over Estonia, Poland and Romania. NATO said that it would use all necessary military and non-military tools to defend itself. The warning came after Estonia said on Friday that 3 Russian MiG-31 fighter jets violated its airspace for 12 minutes before NATO Italian fighter jets escorted them out. And the week before, some 20 Russian drones entered Polish airspace, prompting NATO jets to shoot some of them down and the alliance to beef up its defense on Europe's eastern flank. Now, the NATO statement followed a meeting of the North Atlantic Council, which was called after Estonia invoked Article 4 of NATO's founding treaty. So, Europe is trying to become less dependent on the United States, not just economically but also militarily. But one of the continent's most ambitious projects is currently seen stumbling. Lars Holter is with Deutsche Welle and is joining us from Berlin to talk about it. Good evening, Lars. What are you hearing about this extremely crucial project?
Thanks for having me. Yes, indeed, we're talking about the new FCAS fighter jets. The acronym here stands for Future Combat Aircraft System. And yes, that implies that we're not just talking fighter jets alone, but a system that includes drones and cutting-edge military software as well. It's long been discussed, and it was, or still is, supposed to be developed jointly by Airbus Defence and the Dassault Group, that is a French conglomerate. Now, it should be fairly easy to see why this is such an important project. With Russia's ongoing war in Ukraine, most recently with Moscow breaching EU and NATO airspace and provoking the Western alliance in ways they haven't in decades. All the while, the Western alliance is losing the traditional support lent by the United States along the driving force behind NATO. Under President Trump, NATO, of course, is weakened, and it's become clear to European leaders that they can no longer sit back and rely on military help from across the pond if it were ever needed.
So, Lars, what are European militaries doing in the meantime?
Well, that's the most ironic thing. At a time when this FCAS system was supposed to be built so the continent could become less dependent on the US, they're now growing even more dependent on Washington. The thing is, there are other European fighter jets on the market, but they're relatively old and they do not have all the latest technological capabilities. The F-35 does, however, and that's the American fighter jet made by Lockheed Martin. And a growing number of European states are now ordering these. Germany has just ordered 36 F-35s too, as they are well aware of how desperately they need to prop up their fleet. Now, there is still some hope that Airbus and Dassault find a better way to cooperate. However, in the meantime, Airbus is also looking at another couple of European companies as partners, and they include Britain's BAE Systems and Italy's Leonardo Group. Sweden's Saab is also said to be interested. So there are some options out there, but the clock is ticking. And it would be helpful if Europe could show some decisiveness and get started on their new defense system.
All right, let's see if they are able to do that or they continue to rely on the US. The US, of course, will only sell under Trump and not just give grants or other arrangements of payment. Thanks a lot for joining us for the moment, Lars. Now, European Commission spokesperson Olaf Gill has said that the EU will propose higher import tariffs on Russian oil in due course. Meanwhile, European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen said on Tuesday she wants Europe to stop buying oil from Russia by the end of the year after US President Trump urged NATO allies to cut energy ties with Moscow during his speech at the United Nations General Assembly. EU spokesperson also said that the EU welcomes the engagement with the US.
In her press point with President Trump, President von der Leyen referenced additional steps we intend to take. She talked about sanctioning ports where LNG is coming from. This forms part of the 19th package. And she said we want to increase tariffs on oil imports from Russia. So in response to your question, the Commission will present further details on this in due course.
And still to come in this edition of DD India Live. China's Alibaba and US's Nvidia strike up a partnership on AI and humanoid robots. And Bangladesh wins a toss and decides to bowl first in a crucial Asia Cup Super 4 encounter against India.
Geopolitics and trade deals. Economic challenges amid development. Hard work and the path to prosperity. It's the economy, always. Between walkers, money is what money does and says. Supply creates its own demand. Between the bulls pulls and bears tears. When supply chains globalization and India rises to the podium. We'll get you centered with the economic brief at 8 p.m. every Thursday on DD India.
Jharkhand will mesmerize you with majestic nature, rich heritage and colorful culture.
Hello. Johar. It fits perfectly.
Thank you.
Full workout ho gaya.
Ready?
Postcards from Jharkhand on National Geographic.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India Live. I'm Gautam Roy. Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman launched GST Appellate Tribunal on Wednesday, which is expected to speed up the grievance redressal process of GST, with hearings expected by December 2025.
One principal bench in New Delhi and multiple state benches across the country with equal representation of technical members from the center and the states. It's absolutely unique, just as the GST is the one and only constitutional body since after independence of India. Here is an appellate or jurisprudence fountainhead, the GSTAT, coming to the rescue of the citizens in its own unique shape and size and contour. And importantly, the selection process itself is being directly monitored by the Honorable Supreme Court. So I think this has the best of everything that Indian jurisprudence can offer, best of everything that the judicial administration can offer.
The Cabinet Committee on Economic Affairs, chaired by Prime Minister Modi, has approved a number of decisions. The Cabinet approved a comprehensive package of 69,725 crore Indian rupees to revitalize India's shipbuilding and maritime ecosystem. The Cabinet also approved 75,000 additional postgraduate medical seats for students, worth an annual outlay of 15,000 crore INR.
प्रधानमंत्री जी ने एक संकल्प जो लिया था कि 75,000 एडिशनल मेडिकल सीट्स 5 साल में क्रिएट करेंगे भारत में, तो आज 5,000 नए पोस्ट ग्रेजुएट सीट्स का अप्रूवल कैबिनेट में मिला है और इसके लिए आउटले होगा 15,035 करोड़ रुपीस। 15,035 करोड़ रुपीस का इसके लिए आउटले होगा। ओवरऑल better hospitals, upgradation of medical colleges, उनमें नए डिपार्टमेंट्स खुलना, नए डिसिप्लिन्स लाना, बेटर इक्विपमेंट लाना, बेटर मेडिकल टेक्नोलॉजीज लाना, और एआई का भी बहुत उपयोग किया जाएगा in improving the medical education.
And the Cabinet Committee on Economic Affairs also approved an umbrella scheme to support a research scheme for scholars working under various programs to converge the benefits under one head. Now, India on Tuesday hit out at Pakistan at the United Nations Human Rights Council for abusing the forum with baseless and provocative statements against India. Representing India at the 60th session of the Human Rights Council, Kshitij Tyagi, Councillor Permanent Mission of India in Geneva, said that instead of coveting India's territory, Pakistan would do well to vacate Indian territory under its illegal occupation and focus on rescuing an economy on life support, a polity muzzled by military dominance, and a human rights record stained by persecution. Perhaps once Pakistan finds time away from exporting terrorism, harboring UN-prescribed terrorists, and bombing its own people.
A delegation that epitomizes the antithesis of this approach continues to abuse this forum with baseless and provocative statements against India. Instead of coveting our territory, they would do well to vacate the Indian territory under the illegal occupation and focus on rescuing an economy on life support, a polity muzzled by military dominance, and a human rights record stained by persecution. Perhaps once they find time away from exporting terrorism, harboring UN-proscribed terrorists, and bombing their own people.
On the sidelines of the UNJ meeting in the US, External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar has held a key meeting in New York. Dr. Jaishankar hosted a high-level meeting of like-minded Global South countries to discuss a number of important global issues. He made the proposal for Global South to approach world affairs and said, in light of current challenges, the need for enhanced dialogue among the Global South was emphasized to foster solidarity and encourage mutual cooperation. The discussion recommended utilizing existing platforms to strengthen mutual consultation. Presenting India's position, Dr. Jaishankar said, given the growing concerns and multiplicity of risks for today, it's natural for the Global South to turn to multilateralism for solutions.
India would propose the following points for your collective consideration. 1. We utilize existing forums to strengthen consultations among Global South with a view to enhance solidarity and encourage collaboration. 2. Bring to the table specific strengths, experiences, and achievements that we may have individually developed, but which can actually benefit fellow Global South members.
Typhoon Ragasa has made landfall in southern China on Wednesday after battering Hong Kong and Taiwan. Ragasa made landfall along the coast of Hailing Island, Yangjiang City, Guangdong Province. In Taiwan, at least 17 people were killed when a decades-old barrier lake burst. Super Typhoon Ragasa pounded the island with torrential rain. It was the strongest tropical cyclone of the year, shaking buildings and flooding streets in a city of over 2 million people. Multiple people were injured and killed after a shooting incident at an Immigration and Customs Enforcement office in Dallas, Texas on Wednesday. Officials confirmed that the shooter was killed after a self-inflicted gunshot. Acting ICE Director Todd Lyons confirmed that the shooting during an interview. He also mentioned that those shot at the facility could be employees, civilian visitors or detainees. Meanwhile, Christine Noem, Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security, has also confirmed the incident in a post on X. She said that the motive behind the shooting is not yet known. Let's now take a look at some other stories for making news around the world. 4 years after the military seized power, voters in a Guinea referendum have overwhelmingly approved a new constitution, with 89% supporting the charter, according to an official provisional result. The constitution paves the way for elections in the West African country and also permits General Mamadi to run for president. Brazil's federal police is working to expand its gold tracing program, Ouro Alvo, to other countries in the Amazon rainforest as criminals increasingly smuggle gold across borders to escape Brazil's tightening enforcement. Ouro Alvo, or clean gold, was launched in 2019 when Brazil's current illegal mining boom was gathering pace. Washington is in talks with Buenos Aires to set up a $20 billion swap line that would give Argentina access to dollars as it battles high inflation ahead of the October 26 midterm elections. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent said the U.S. is also ready to buy Argentina's dollar bonds if needed. President Javier Milei has thanked the U.S. for its support. Chinese company Alibaba has announced teaming up with U.S. tech giant NVIDIA, marking a milestone collaboration to accelerate its development of humanoid robots. The news has come as Alibaba's shares soared beyond 9% in Hong Kong after its chief executive Eddie Wu unveiled plans to further ramp up spending on artificial intelligence. Sporting updates now. Bangladesh's stand-in skipper Jakar Ali won the toss and opted to bowl first against Suryakumar Yadav's India in the Super Fours clash of Asia Cup 2025 at the Dubai International Cricket Stadium. The big news is that regular captain Liton Das is not fit enough to make the playing 11 due to injury. Suryakumar Yadav says his team wanted to bat first. The lineup for India remains unchanged. The only unbeaten outfit of the tournament, India haven't been seriously challenged in their 4 preceding games. After a rather comfortable 6-wicket win over Pakistan in their first Super 4 match, India will either find a spot against the side they hold at a 16-1 record in T20 internationals. With India continuing their dominant run in the Asia Cup, the onus will be on Bangladesh to defy the odds and produce a performance that could shake the tournament's balance. In Major League Soccer, Lionel Messi's Inter Miami will look to seal a playoff spot when they face New York City FC on Thursday. Red-hot Inter Miami are coming in off back-to-back home wins over DC United and Seattle. A draw would be enough to secure them a playoff spot, and a win would take Miami above 4th place New York City and into 3rd spot in the Eastern Conference standings. Miami's Luis Suarez is also set to return from a 3-match suspension that stemmed from a spitting incident following the team's loss at Seattle in the League's Cup final. Prime Minister Narendra Modi had visited Lothal in Gujarat on the 20th of September to review the progress of the National Maritime Heritage Complex. This complex showcases India's maritime heritage at the historic Lothal site, which dates back to the Indus Valley civilization. Once ready, the complex would boost economic activity in the region. DD India's Vishal Baristo reports.
The National Maritime Heritage Project NMHC is being developed at Lothal, Gujarat to celebrate and preserve India's rich 4,500-year-old maritime heritage. The ambitious project, considered the world's largest maritime complex, features a museum with 14 galleries, themed parks, the recreation of Lothal city, and a maritime research institute. The NMHC aims to serve as a global center for learning, tourism, and showcasing India's historical and ongoing role in maritime activities.
So in first 1A, the costing is 1300 crores, and in this 1300 crore we are going to make 6 galleries and 1 Lothal town. This is different than any other contract that we did it. Like this is a heritage complex. Here we are making the live heritage.
The project includes recreation of ancient dockyard. The complex will feature 4 theme parks, a maritime and naval theme park, a climate change theme park, a monuments park, and an adventure park.
I'm inside a submarine model, and there you can see this movie talks about the evolution of marine life, and I have with me Aditya. Tell us about this model.
So this is basically a simulator ride for submarine, and in this we are showing the evolution of the marine life. Okay, So this are the screens. It is basically what we can say a windows of the submarine. Okay, and the ride will move according to the video simulation. So it will be a motion ride simulation with the videos and the audio syncing.
This complex is designed to be a world-class facility that will attract tourists, provide educational opportunities, and boost the local economy. This complex would encourage business activities in the region. There are 20 odd resorts in the surrounding area.
This area is getting developed, and because of the Lothal site and the heritage complex, the tourism will surely get a boost. It will also help the resorts in the surrounding area. Thanks to the initiative taken by the Modi government, it will also attract foreign tourists.
Lothal was an ancient port city of the Indus Valley civilization and is situated in the Indian state of Gujarat. With cameraman Ramakant and Mukesh in Lothal, Vishal Baristo's report for DD India.
And that's all we have for this edition of DD India Live. But let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. And for those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on DD India's mobile app. It's available on both Android and iOS. Just scan the QR code and download the app right away. And we'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Gautam Roy, and from all of us here in Delhi, thanks for watching DD India Live.